Welcome to Adventures in Solitaire. So as mentioned in the intro, today we'll be doing a tutorial for a co-op solo role-playing session for Starforged. Today we have a member of the community who graciously went ahead and accepted an invite to kind of have a tutorial session that would not just be maybe for him, but for others to listen into. And a little bit of an AMA. So there's kind of a lot of learning going on in this. And my hopes are that anybody who's kind of interested in doing a co-op solo session, or maybe who's interested in just doing solo role-playing, maybe you can kind of pick up some things and learn some things. And, you know, I kind of hope in the process, there might be some things that I can learn as well. So, we have already, I walked, and I'm sorry, I haven't actually introduced you yet. Do you want to give your name or a nickname?
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, my name is Stefano, and I'm just happy to be here.
All right. I'm happy to have Stefano there. And if you've been a part of the community, my name is Matthew. So Stefano and I have created our individual separate characters. He has went ahead and created, I let him go ahead and work on creating the initial sector for Starforged that we'll be playing within. And he created and we both did, created our assets and our contacts, etc. So from here, we kind of need to figure out a few things, such as how we met. We did talk a little bit about how he was a bit. Actually, I'll let him explain what his character is, and then we can talk about kind of what my character is and maybe how we met. And you might go ahead and mention your contact as well.
All right, so I will be playing Cassidy, who is a vestige, which means he's sort of the last of his kind, or at least there's very few left of his clan in the Forge. He is both a courier and an explorer, because that's the way we kind of rolled up this part of the galaxy, is that information is transported through these couriers. But in his heart of hearts, he's kind of searching for the other remnants of his clan or other people that may still know about his culture, and maybe creating sort of a network of these people so that they can continue to share their culture and their beliefs with each other to just kind of keep it alive.
Awesome. So, and for my character, I have created a kind of an ace pilot and navigator. He's also kind of good in a tight spot on his feet. Spends a lot of time roaming around, just trying to find oddball work. Never really found his feet. His contact, ironically enough, and I swear, this was a random roll. My contact, their role. Are you ready, Stefano?
Yep.
Courier. My contact.
That's great.
So, how we met? Well, I have a contact, and they're a courier, and you were wanting to get start tracking things down, and people down, or the last vestiges down, and you're wanting to bring them together, but you didn't quite have the means on your own to do it. You're going to either have to start paying, and some sort of fare consistently, or you're going to have to kind of work together with somebody in some sort of a fashion. So it sounds like to me, the courier was a really great way to kind of, bring that together. What are your thoughts on that as far as the meeting there? Do you have anything that you want to add or change that up or mix it up a little bit?
No, I think that's pretty fair. I would say that the couriers probably have a section of a bar or something where they get together and exchange stories and who's good to work for, who's not. I did forget to mention my contact. His name is Ash, and he is a cunning and connected, larger-than-life personality who kind of lives out in a deep space area. I'm not sure how that's going to come into play, but having somebody who's connected seemed like a good role at the time.
Right. So his role was defined as connected?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so courier connected. Maybe our courier and the connected guy got together and got us together, something like that.
Yeah, maybe he's the go-to guy to put people and pieces together that he thinks are going to be like maybe profitable or at least successful.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. So at this point, I think it's safe to say that we're probably looking for work, or do you have something else kind of in your head that's a little bit more than just work?
No, I think that that's the exact place where I'd want to start. Is just I've got my ace pilot with me, so it's time to hit the spaceways and start earning some cash. I don't know.
Gotcha. So we have multiple different locations, the largest of which is, of course, as you know, Forlorn is the largest of all of them. And I think that's probably where we're more likely to get work. Yeah, I think we're probably just going to play this out because I think there's going to be a few things that happen, and I can maybe address that as a kind of a helpful hint or tip. But before we go ahead and we head out, where are we starting at? I know that we had a contact. My contact is on number 4, which is probably about where I would start out, unless you're starting out somewhere different because we're going to be in the same place, which would be the relic, which is at the far end of the sector in the bottom right.
That's actually where my contact is as well. So
Okay.
it kind of makes sense that that's where we like literally just met maybe a couple of days ago or something. I don't know, but yeah, my contact's there as well.
Sure. So we're literally getting up on our feet, getting to know each other, and getting to know each other twice. So interesting, and that works for me. So I guess the next question that I would have, which is pretty important, is how well do our characters, or do we, if we're getting in the role, how well do we know about these individual settlements? How well do we know just kind of what's here? Have we been here for a while? Would we know a lot more?
Well, in my case, I think because I didn't have a pilot, maybe I was currying within maybe 2 areas or even just within the settlement itself. And now I'm broadening my horizons. So I definitely would have very little knowledge. But you, as a pilot, maybe you would have more knowledge.
So I probably hopped back between Relic, Utora, and Utopia. Yeah, we'll say I have general knowledge of those things, and for that reason, when it comes to roll anything out for that or for information, I'll provide it. And then if there's a problem, then you can push back and we can address it that way. Meaning that if you like, it doesn't make sense for some reason. All right. So my question for you is: we do I actually looked at Utopia. It actually does have thousands too. One's a orbital and one's forlorn. So where would you like to try and go to? Or actually, we could actually go here local. I mean, see if we can actually carry a package to there. Why go all the way there if we can't maybe find work here? Hopefully, maybe find someone that in the hundreds of people that are on this place that might need some mail delivered.
Yeah, definitely. We did roll up that this particular deep space relic station is plagued by sickness. So, maybe it's we have to take some vials or something to be analyzed by a larger settlement. The only problem with Utopia is that it's been rolled up as very spiritual and oppressive.
I'm thinking I want to get away from Relic, and at this point, I don't even want to spend any more time searching for postal mail to deliver. I don't know. I'm scared of getting sick now. Do you want to kind of wade through the streets? And I mean, do you think it poses a risk to our characters, or should we move on?
Yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm happy to get out of here as well. People are coughing and whatever else. It's as good a time as any to start hitting the stars and finding our way.
Yeah. So maybe that was the other thing that kind of got us both off our feet. Said beg for something was, and to reach out to our contacts was the plague. So there you go. All right. So Utora is. Which one? So no, it is Utopia that is the oppressive, right? And it is the
Yes.
spirituality. So Utora is dozens. So you're maybe thinking forlorn. might be a better place.
I'm not saying it's better. I like the idea of going to this huge settlement of thousands of people. It's a completely different culture than
Sure.
what I'm used to. So,
There you go.
I don't mind seeing how that plays out. Forlorn is in deep space, so yeah, maybe they have they're very cold and medical. Maybe their technology is slightly ahead. I'm not sure.
Gotcha. All right. So at this point, I think it would probably be wise to go ahead and start with what do you think we should make a move? And if we were to make a move, what kind of move do you think that would be? You can throw that back at me if you're not sure.
Yeah, I would throw that back at you.
All right.
I'm not sure what that
Sure.
would entail.
Sure. So we have two choices here, and this is true for really any role playing system we're using, whether we're using a move system or not. I can say that, or we can say, you know what, it's probably just going to be a safe journey. I'm not going to worry about it. The problem with that is it eliminates the chance of encounters, right? It eliminates the chance of something catching us by surprise. And I love to be surprised as long as it's within reason and it's not happening every time we look over our shoulder. But I would say an exploration move would be okay to get it started. We don't actually have an adventure, and that may cause an adventure in and of itself. So I'm going to say that we are going to undertake an expedition because I want to be able to have the chance to have some things happen and maybe discover some things on the way. And an expedition really allows for that. All right. So
that sounds great.
As we move, we have some choices. We can move at speed, we can keep under the radar, or we can stay vigilant. Now, my character is really good at moving at speed, but you, because I am your pilot and I'm going to tend to listen to you, how do you want to go about this journey? Do you want to get there quickly, just going to want to kind of take our time, or kind of be really sneaky about it?
Well, I don't think there's any need to be sneaky at this point. I think, based on his being kind of new to being out, further from his comfort zone.
Given that you're going to be wide-eyed and we're going to want to stay vigilant, I'm going to roll that as stay vigilant because you're going to be vigilant. That's how my character is going to travel, if that's okay. Because that speed, I think, is like moving quickly. Like, go fast. So there we go. Wits, which isn't bad. I'm not bad at wits. Now, my navigator says when you set a course, which is not what we're doing. So that won't apply. So that's something else that I failed to do, was I failed to create a exploration quest, if you will. So what I have done, and I'm going to hold this up the camera, and you won't be able to see that, of course, on your side, but I have started a quest. I'm actually going to mark this as dangerous because it's pretty well-traveled space. We're not going off the beaten path. But we did roll a... well, it's not pulling up now, but it's a miss. And with a miss, as it says, you are waylaid by a crisis or arrive at a waypoint to confront an immediate hardship or threat. Do not mark progress. Pay the price. So I'm going to say that we arrive at a waypoint, and I'll explain that in a minute. But we do have to pay the price somehow. All right, so on page 25 of the reference guide, I am on pay the price. We have a couple of choices. We can assume like an obvious thing, like taking damage. We can ask the oracle, which is rolling on some of the oracles, or we can roll on the table below. I'm thinking there's a lot going on, or there's not enough going on around us for us to be able to really get a lot from rolling single words right now. So I'm thinking rolling this table would probably be best. But you may feel differently, so I'm going to let you kind of weigh in on that.
Yeah, no, I think this is the perfect time to use an oracle because there's no context for us to go on.
Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm rolling on the table below 1 through 100. Is that right?
Yep.
6, followed by a 5, so that would be 65. So your vehicle suffers damage. Well, okay, so it suffers damage. Now we could go ahead and start saying, well, what do you think the damage is? I don't usually like to do that. We could do that also as a point of just rushing things along. If you're playing on your own, or I was playing on my own, that might be something I might be interested in doing. But instead, what I'd like to do, if you're okay with it, is actually do a core oracle where we do like a descriptor, and maybe a theme, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, we don't really have any context. We were traveling, as we normally would, so it's not like we were pushing engines.
New innocence serve.
Maybe it's a new pilot, and they pass by us too closely or something. I'm not sure.
Hey, you know what? That sounds actually pretty good. New innocence. And what was the other one? It was new innocence and serve. Serve as in service, maybe? Like maybe that pilot was in a rush, as you said, because they were under the service of somebody and they were trying to meet their commitment.
Yeah, maybe like a chauffeur or something, to somebody more like somebody very important, and they were like, I gotta get going.
Right, right. All right, so we have lost 1 health, I'll say, on our starship. Rough
All right.
start. So we run into this guy, and obviously we'll say that he's at fault. We have to, because we're assuming he's new and all these other things. Otherwise, that wouldn't come into play. It wouldn't be an issue, a topic. So it was his fault. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's what these oracles have kind of provided us in terms of what's happened.
And I'll be very honest. If I was on my own, I would have kept rolling because that wouldn't have popped up in my head. So good catch on that one for pulling that out. So we run into him. Now we are now at what would be called a waypoint, and the waypoint says the following: when you divert from an expedition to examine a notable location, roll wits. Now, you don't have to, right? Because if you remember, it says when we undertook the expedition, on the miss it says, you are waylaid by a crisis or arrive at a waypoint to confront an immediate hardship or threat. So I read that as, we arrived at a waypoint to confront an immediate hardship or threat, in which case we ran into somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can kind of look around here and see what we think we see, or we can move on. We can also engage with this individual. I would be curious as to, whether or not his ship is incapacitated at this point. And we can, how do you think, what do you think about that? Like, do you want to check on how badly his ship is damaged? Do you want to engage with this individual further, or do you just want to kind of just hightail it and move on?
I feel like this was kind of a hit and run. I think because he was new, I think he, when he hit us, no matter what happened to his ship, he's not sticking around to exchange insurance.
Okay. So the question that I would have for you is do we want to do what we're not supposed to do in the modern era and chase after the hit and run, or do we want to just move on?
I don't know. You're my pilot, so this is your ship. Are you mad enough at this guy that we were that you want to follow up and see if we can get some compensation or something, right. Or are you just going to be like, wow, that we came out better than we could have?
Yeah, I think the last one is probably where I'm going to stand, though my character would be noticeably angry. Though my character does, I'm actually going to take a note, and I'm going to write down on a sheet. It's an Oracle's worksheet, and it has a bunch of blank numbered lists. And I'm going to write down in one of those lists, on the 1 through 10, new pilot, hit, and run. So
can we get the name of that ship?
That's what my character did. He he took the time to quickly grab the data that he would need to identify that ship if we ever came across it again. So because there are only 4 ports of call, I guess not 4 ports. There may be more than one settlement or landing place on a planet, but when I say a port, I guess 4 planets. There's 4 main settlements, and there is I would think that my character would, if we stick around here for long enough, we'll probably run into him again. So he definitely made note of that. All right. So I think we could explore this waypoint, but I really don't think there would be much to discover here. I think the waypoint itself really would have just been, running into this guy. So I think that we can probably move on. So at this point, we are going to go ahead and set a course. Now, this is where my rolls might fare a little better. It says, when you set a course, choose one. Follow the fastest path and take +2 momentum on a strong hit, or follow the safest path and add +1. So it has some more there, but I think I'm going to do the safest path, and I'm going to do +1. But because I feel like we've lost time, I will move at speed if your character is okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like it's dangerous out here in space. There's not a lot of room.
I'll go off road this time. I won't take the highway.
Nice.
So, I'm going to go ahead and have you roll 2d10 and a d6, if you would not mind for me. Okay, that 1 is actually going to end up being a 4, but I get a +1 because I'm following the safest path. So that's actually going to be a 5. But it still doesn't beat the 8, so it's going to be a weak hit. So it says, you arrive at the next step, but face a cost or complication. Choose one. Suffer costs en route. We'll have to make a suffer minus -2 or 2 -1 suffer moves. Or face a complication at the destination. Envision what you encounter.
Could it be like one of the systems on the ship is, malfunctioning from that hit?
Yeah, like it was a little bit worse than my character had anticipated. I think so. And actually, the set of courses. Set of courses roll plus supply. So believe it or not, I actually I did not catch that. I am so sorry. So on set of course, it says roll plus supply. So the supply is 5. So 5, 6, 7. No, it's still been okay. So I think I'm gonna do a suffer move -2. I think so. We'll have to go to the suffer moves. And in this case, because we have attributed it to we're attributing it to our ship, we would be doing a withstand damage. So, when your vehicle faces a damaging situation or environment, suffer -1 integrity for minor damage, or a -2 for serious. This would be a -2. Then, if your integrity is 0, which it's not, or you choose to resist damage, you may roll plus integrity. So something's going on with your system. Now we can roll on some tables to see what that is. Now, believe it or not, I actually have tables for malfunctioning systems and ships that are separate from Starforged.
I love it. Go for it.
Oh, okay. Ship malfunctions. Do you want to roll 2d6 for me? Actually, 2d6 separately. So roll 1d6. Actually, you have to. Sorry. My apologies. Yeah. So you got a 6 and then a 1. So 61. Fuel pump problem. I'll say it's 2 problems. So let's roll again. Let's roll again. Because that one doesn't actually work with us in this one. 31.
All right.
Oh, no. Security lockouts.
Uh-oh.
So we have a fuel pump problem, and our ship's computer is giving us some it's locking us out of some stuff. It's malfunctioning, and it's not allowing the ship to function the way that it would normally function in some instances. So, not good. Now, that would be 2 hits on the whole, which would bring us down to 3 hits left out of 6. So, do we want to try and like run around the ship, trying to stave off the damage that's being done to our ship, or do we just want to let it go?
Oh, I think we have to start patching stuff and rerouting as much as we can.
All right, so our current integrity is actually setting, and I actually reverse this, is actually setting at a 4. So let's roll. We got a 7, a 6, and a 2, but we get a roll on this one. We get that 2 for the action die that we're using to resist.
Yeah.
We get to add our our structure or integrity. So 4 to that. So we actually get a 6, which is still not good enough. Because it just meets the 6. On a miss, it's worse than you thought. Oh, no.
As a pilot, you don't have a little bump you can give it?
No, my piloting skills don't include the repair of the ship I'm piloting. That would probably be falling under an engineer thing. Suffer an additional -1 integrity or lose 2 momentum. All right, so 1. Whoa, wrong pencil. 1, 2, 3. We have 1 integrity left. 2, actually. We take 2 more hits. The second hit, and that's it. We will be exposing our air to space in order to move around space, or whatever.
Oh, this is not good. I think we may need to stop by a settlement before we get to our destination.
Right. So, yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're going to nix this quest. Now, this is not a vow, so it's not going to hurt us. But we decide this is bad news. I think we're pretty close to the planet that we left. We really didn't make it that far. We didn't even mark any progress, to be honest. We basically got into traversable space that you'd be using for like FTL or close to FTL travel. So,
yep.
I say we turn around, and I'm going to make this troublesome this time instead of dangerous, which is where I had it. And your ace pilot is becoming questionable for you right now.
Yeah. Well, again, it wasn't your fault. It was this hotshot guy who nicked our ship, and it just caused, cascading failures.
Yeah. All right. So you also learned your ace pilot is not an engineer or computer expert. So, yeah. All right. So we're going to go ahead and take another expedition. This time I'll move at speed. I am going to roll myself on this one just because I have the thing there. What is up with these rolls today? I don't like this app. I'm telling you. It's not good for me. So 5.
Not good for the ship.
It's not. It's really not. So we're waylaid by another crisis.
Oh, no.
I'm going to give you the steering wheel here in a minute. Okay. Holy cow. And you're not really been making any rolls other than for my character because I've been doing nothing but flying the ship. What's your edge and your wits and your shadow?
Oh, I don't have a character sheet.
Even though I am an ace pilot, that does not mean that you cannot lend your character's abilities to the game. So, like your wits, for example, if you're high on wits, you could use that to kind of keep an eye out as we go.
Okay.
So it's not just necessarily me making all the rolls. The only real advantage to me making the rolls is when, for example, we happen to be making a set of course roll. So there's no reason that you couldn't, or your character even wouldn't, help out if he was we were traveling together. Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once, which is not my forte at all.
I'd also be willing to restart if you want, because this seems like a really downward trajectory to begin.
Yeah, we're making a lot of bad rolls. We can restart. That's okay. And we can go back from scratch all over again. I honestly don't have a problem with that if that's what you're more comfortable with. On the other hand...
Oh, no. I'm not saying I'm more comfortable. I wasn't sure if this was going to be a salvageable adventure. But if you're telling me that we can limp back and we can continue on, then absolutely, because this drama has been great. And we've already kind of established another character out there who we're going to re-encounter. We're going to be like, hey,
Yeah.
You're that guy.
Yeah, these really crazy close situations have a really great way of really giving a lot of extra narrative and background and memories to the characters. The worst case scenario here is that one of us dies, which would be a killer for the entire thing as far as I'm concerned. And in that scenario, we just restart and start again, and we have another weekend of recording. And I don't. That's not gonna bother me. But if that's too much, are you okay with pushing on? I guess is what I am. Is what I'm saying. Okay.
No, absolutely. I was just putting it out there that if you wanted to restart, we could. But let's push on and let's see what this doomed vessel can do.
Yeah, let's see. All right, so if you wouldn't mind, if you could roll a D100 for me.
19.
19. Okay. You face the consequences of an earlier choice. So what are some of the choices that we made? We made the choice to leave the settlement because we didn't want to get have anybody taint us with their illness, basically.
Yes,
we decided not to chase down the guy who was running away from us. Ironically enough, I saw him going to the settlement we were coming from because we were crossing paths, So he's going the opposite way, and we were so close to that settlement, there was really only one place I could see him going. So maybe it's that as we limp back, he's either coming back this way, or maybe we're not the only, given the amount of damage that we've suffered, we're not the only ones suffering damage. Or maybe it's another choice.
I like the idea of him coming back already.
Gotcha. So he's already made his trip, and he's on his way back. So the question is does he reach out to us, or do we reach out to him?
I think we reach out to him, and again, kind of going with that chauffeur style or like idea. I think he was rushing to pick up someone who's, wealthy to get them off that ship before, because they realize like, hey, I don't want to be here. There's a bunch of sick people here. I'm calling for my car. So he rushes to get them. Now they're heading back. We reach out and be like, "Hey, you're the one who damaged our ship." And the wealthy person, or whoever this person of power is going to be like, "You did," like looking at the chauffeur and being like, "You did what?"
Yeah, well, that's my thoughts. As soon as you mentioned wealthy person, I immediately went there as a method of leverage. But right now, I think it would be a good time to do an adventure move. And so if we go and look at the adventure moves on page 10, again, you don't have to follow if you don't want to. We have a few options. We can face danger, secure an advantage, gather information, or compel. Now, secure an advantage is a really interesting move. And by the way, adventure moves are kind of like your general moves. If you can't figure out like where to go for something, it's very possibly an adventure moves. So
okay, got it.
So securing an advantage says when you assess a situation, make preparations or attempt to gain leverage. Kind of think that's kind of what we would want to do here. And I've been making a lot of these rolls. So I'm going to let you, if you don't mind, I did say you don't have to turn it if you don't want to, but now you're almost going to have to kind of see what your options are. If you'll take a look at those and tell me which one you think you're going to go with as far as how you're going to act with that move. There should be 5 options there.
Yeah, I see those. So I would choose either heart or wits. I would say heart.
All right, so we're going to go with resolve, command, or social ability, and you're just basically going to say, like, reach out over the comms, and you're going to start uttering all this stuff about what's happened, like you had said just a moment ago. Correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think it would be your character. I don't think he has anything that would help with that. Yeah, I know. So I think that. Though I do think we should look at your career card, because that could have been helpful in our last rolls, by the way. I didn't see that. So anyway, I think it would be a straight up roll. So if you will, go ahead and roll, and then we can add your heart to that. A +3.
And so what dice am I rolling? A D6?
You'll roll 2d10 for your challenge die. So we'll get those. And now I'll let you know what you have to roll against. Ooh, that's
so I got an 8 and a 3, which is an 11.
So okay, so you have to beat an 8 and or a 3. So let's roll a 6 or a D6, sorry, and let's see what you come up with. All right.
I got a 3.
So off the bat with no modifiers, it's a complete miss. But you have a heart of +3, which would make your 3 a 6, which doesn't quite beat the 8. So what we get is a weak hit. Now it says on secure advantage, on a hit you succeed. On a strong hit, take both options below. On a weak hit, you can only choose one. So we did hit, but it was weak hit. So you can choose to get +2 momentum for your character. You're at a +2 already, so you go to a +4. Or you can add +1 to your next move that you would roll that is not a progress move. But we're not making our progress move next roll anyway, I don't think. Progress move is in relation to quests or vows, things like that.
Okay, so I guess we take the +2 momentum then.
Okay, so we'll give you a +4. And then at this point, we need to go ahead and compel when you try to persuade someone or make them an offer. So we're talking to them. We were able to use this information to our advantage, but what are we trying to get out of this situation?
I think we're going to try and persuade them to pay for the repairs, take some responsibility for this
Gotcha.
damage that they've caused. What do you think?
I think so. I agree with you. So we can charm, pacify, encourage, or barter, threaten or incite, or lie or swindle. So it's going to be heart, iron, or shadow. Now, charm, pacify, encourage, or barter, I mean, you could still take it this route. You could play the nice guy and say, now look, it could be something worse. We could do this. We could do that. We could just take your money if we wanted to. I've got an ace pilot. So just look at him over there. Or it could be threaten or incite, which, that's more of a, like, we're going to do this if you don't. Lie or swindle. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think Cassidy hasn't been negatively affected in life, so he's going to charm. He's just going to be like, hey, yeah, listen, like, your ship damaged us on the way to getting you. Took off without even seeing if we were okay. We're limping back to Relic to try and get some repairs.
Okay. All right. So let's roll. Let's see if that's successful. Let's roll a D10 twice separately, or we can roll them together and just all. There we go. We got a 5 and an 8, so that one of those or both of those you'll need to beat. Let's roll your challenge die of a D6.
Ouch.
Oh my gosh. All right, so wow, another one.
I guess I'm not as charming as I thought.
You're not charming the dice anyway, or we're not charming the dice, neither one of us. So that's going to be a 4, but that's not going to be either. And
Can I spend momentum on this?
You can, but unfortunately oh yeah. So we'll wipe out your momentum. That'll bring you to a +2, but you were at a +4. So what that's going to do is it's going to negate your 1. And then what else is it going to do? Do you remember? If not, that's fine.
No, I don't remember.
So it's going to negate the 1. It's going to put the +4 that you had in its place as if you rolled a 4 on your die.
And then so that gets me above the 5. So it's a weak hit.
It is, yes. Yeah, it's a 7. So it's just a couple out of having a strong hit. So if we look, but your momentum now drops to a +2. And it wasn't real high to begin with, so it's not a huge loss. But it does get us what we need. So on a weak hit, as above, so we take +1 momentum, and they're going to do what we want and or agree to our conditions. But their agreement comes with a demand or a complication, envision their counteroffer. Now, if it were me, I would probably go Oracle on this one. But it's not just me. We are playing cooperatively, so I want to include you, of course, as I have throughout the process, on that decision. So what do you think? Would you feel the need to roll an Oracle, or do you have a feeling like you know what that demand or complication coming from their end might be?
Well, before we get to that, would it be possible, and you don't have to do this, but would you combine your momentum with mine? Is that possible, or is that not a thing?
That's not a thing unless you want to house rule it.
Nope, that's not. I just was wondering if that was a rule. So then we definitely have to go to the Oracle, because I have no idea. They damaged our ship, but now they're demanding something of us. I am at a complete loss.
Okay, so we're going to go with the descriptor, And let's roll a D100 and let's see what we come up with. I'm going to flip this paper over and start writing down keywords as we come across them. So we have 4 keywords. We can keep rolling if we need to. There's no, I mean, it's really up to the individual. You know, it's whatever you're comfortable with. And honestly, it's going to depend on the individual because some people are going to be able to get something a lot quicker, things a lot quicker than other people are. And it's not even necessarily due to a lack of imagination. It can be many things. So if we want to keep rolling, that's fine. But what we have is the following. We have, and these can be in any order. We can put them however we want. We have ancient, death, release, illusion. So if we're doing conjecture, when I see death and I'm thinking about things we have going on and where they've come from, I immediately start thinking about plague, something about death related to plague. That's what I think.
Yeah, I went there as well.
If I just had release and illusion and I didn't have the ancient, I think I would have an answer. But the ancient's throwing me for a little bit of a twist.
Well, I kind of thought that maybe that's the passenger. Maybe they're very old in like to the point where they have been medically sustained to be way older than they should be.
Okay. All right. So they're an older passenger. So what are you getting from the death? You getting from death, release, illusion, and then I'll tell you what my mind generated, and then we can figure out where we want to go from there.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of focused on the ancient. So I mean, if you have something,
yeah, I'll throw it out there, and then maybe you can pull in the ancient for me. You already did in partial because you took the word and you brought it into something else, much like we did with death and plague. So basically, I'm seeing this as that this plague that's been going on in the planet just recently here, I'm assuming, is actually an illusion, and that it was released on purpose, and that this individual knows about it, and he wants to get like the heck out of there, but maybe he had some part in that, and that's why this guy was in such a hurry, because it was maybe just getting found out.
Wow.
And maybe
I like this. I like where this is going.
Maybe he wants an escort. I don't know. But that's some stretching on my part. Now, the death is not a stretch. The the old man, woman, not a stretch at all. It could be that the illusion is his age, which he's actually older than he looks. It could be that, he's about to die, and he wants to die on his own terms. Maybe the plague has gotten to him. He wants to release on his own terms, and he wants to get to where he's there. So maybe it's that we provide support and make sure that he gets where he needs to go with this pilot, so he can do what he needs, and then after that, he would cover the costs himself. So there's 2 options to go with there.
I really like the idea that the plague on Relic was an illusion, and that whatever people were dying from, perhaps that's what's been sustaining the more elite to live longer. They're literally harvesting these people. And so I don't know what the consequence of this is. I think you were right. I think somebody found out, somebody leaked the information. He's getting the heck out of there. I think he's going to be like, yeah, I'll pay for the repairs. You just have to stall, who's ever's chasing him just long enough for us to get out of here.
Okay, I don't know if this is going to be a dangerous quest or vow, if you will, or it's going to be troublesome. And I generally, when sometimes I'll lean too heavy on things just to be sure. But when I think I might be doing that, I like to roll a 50-50. So I'm going to ask you, because it's not just me. Do you think that this thing that he's asking us to do is troublesome, dangerous, formidable, extreme, or epic?
I mean, this is definitely dangerous or above. It's definitely not troublesome. So,
okay,
dangerous or formidable, I think.
Yeah, I put it on dangerous. So I think that's where we'll stay, just because I think we've already been a glutton for punishment as it is. And our role is to provide screen for old man. So, that's their offer. That doesn't mean that we have to, and I might have actually written this up for nothing. That doesn't mean that we have to take it. Part of the other problem is when are we getting our payment? obviously he's not going to pay us if we don't succeed. Or maybe he's like, at this point, I don't care. Just like, here, I'll pay you. Just this is what you have to do. But he doesn't even know that we won't just jet and go, you know?
But he can see that our ship is damaged, like beyond. It's like beyond 50%, right? At this point.
Oh yeah, it's. I would assume that they probably would be able to tell that our ship is damaged. Yeah, I would assume.
So I would say either he's going to just e-transfer us like a bunch of money right away and just be like, hey, just hop along, pretend you're wounded and stop, people long enough. Or he's going to be like, hey, when you get to Relic, just talk to this guy and he owes me. He'll fix up your ship. Just mention my name.
Okay. Yeah, Relic. Okay. All right. So we're gonna stall people on our way back. All right. That is still part of our return voyage. We're gonna have two separate things that we have running here. We're gonna provide a screen for the old man, which is a quest, and we're gonna have a troublesome thing of get back to Relic. So the get back to Relic is the distance that we're traveling. It is to get there, period, right? That is one thing we want to do. The other thing that we have going on the side is that we're also trying to provide a screen. So I would say that's going to make it kind of interesting, though, because we may actually get back to Relic before we provide the screen. So I'm going to make them both dangerous, and we can advance them sort of together that way, if that makes sense. Let's go to exploration moves.
And I'd like to add that he's obviously going to have to make it worth our while. Maybe not just repair the ship. If he's like, yeah, I'll repair it. But, in addition, if you stall these guys, it'll be maybe slightly better. That's my kind of, because we're both pretty honest guy. You're an honest pilot. I'm an honest courier. This is not, we don't want to interfere with the law, but, or maybe it's not even the law. Maybe it's somebody else, but we're not really inclined to do that. But maybe he's sweetened the pot just a bit. And then he's like, take it or leave it.
Right. We'll take it. I'm going to let you decide on this one. We are going to undertake an expedition. Do we want to move at speed, keep under the radar, or stay vigilant?
We want to stay vigilant because we want to make sure that we engage with the pursuit ship.
Okay. So I will tell you that as a courier, that's when you, to transport or to protect something perilous, set its safety to 5. When you undertake an... All right, so that doesn't quite play out there that way. So, and neither does set a course for me. Okay, so this is just going to be a pure wits roll. Who do you want to be kind of watching the navigation screens for the wits and looking out the the proverbial window?
It kind of sounds like the pilot's job, but I'm
all
open
right,
to.
So we'll we'll roll it. So if you roll, that's promising.
Well, that was the 2d10, a 2 and a 5.
Oh, okay. So I have a 4. Yeah, I have a 4 for my wit, or +2 for my wit. So that's going to be a 4. So it's a weak hit. We get a mark progress. I'm going to mark progress on both tracks. But it says suffer cost en route. We make a suffer move, or 2 suffer moves, or face a peril at the waypoint, envisioning what you encounter. Now, it is important to note that this particular game is notorious for being difficult, especially to a new player. And one of the things that can often happen is the new player will overcompensate for fairness and will hurt themselves when there's no need to do that. Additionally, the game actually has a difficulty setting where you can actually have some of your stats, the baseline for them, kind of go up a little bit, so that as you play, the game's not quite so. But I always felt like I needed to change rather than have the game change for me, so I just kept the normal stats that the game had, set out. So I'm thinking that we don't need to be necessarily hurtful, So I'm thinking that we would, and because of the theme of the provide screen for the old man, that would be part of this anyway. So I think that would be something having to do with apparel, I would think.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought, because whoever's chasing them is not going to be happy that we're in the way.
Right. I am going to try something. Yeah. I would like to roll an oracle just to see to get an idea of what we might come across, if that's okay.
Of course.
So what I got was constructed phenomenon and the starship's mission, which is to collect resources. I have an idea of what those things mean. A ship collecting resources, something having to do with phenomenon, something constructed, or something having to do with something constructed. What are you pulling out of that?
It sounds like it's maybe like a research vessel or some sort of, yeah. It's a vessel that's not made for pursuit, but they've commandeered it and they're like, we're going. It's probably something that's supposed to study, deep space phenomena. But I mean, that's my take. What inspires you?
Mine was very similar. Mine was just basically that it was something that was being used to take resources from an asteroid, like there's some sort of a mining rig and a ship that was interacting with this remote mining rig to just gather resources for whatever purpose, which we don't necessarily need to find that out because it's not it wouldn't be core to the story unless we wanted to, just because. But I have some additional thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts. So we this is what we discover en route. What do we want to do here, or what do we think happens here with that?
I would say like we flip on the emergency beacon, and I mean it's not a lie. We're basically going to be like, we are in dire trouble. It's essential that the mining ship that we see off in the distance, provide aid or at least tow us back to Relic. We could be venting air at any moment. This is a life and death situation.
It sounds like you'd be using heart for that. So that would be a compel. I'm going to add to that there was what we believe is a pirate vessel that had attacked us. And I give the information about the ship that ran into us, that also offered us the money and a job. And I point them that after we last saw contact, that they're headed that way. And that if they hear of any law enforcement passing this way, that they were headed that way. That way being the opposite direction of where they're really heading. Because we're doing our job. Yeah,
I really like that, especially as the pilot. That would definitely thematically work.
Yeah. So, but I will rely on your courier wile and charisma to pull the conversation, if you're okay with that. But
sure.
that would be a heart roll. So that would be your 2d10 and of course your d6.
Barely made it a weekend.
So you got, what did you get there?
I got a 2, and I had to beat a 2 or a 5.
So you got whoa. Yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, man, yeah.
Actually, I got reset to another 2 momentum, right? So I could burn those 2 momentum to make it 6.
So you rolled a what on your momentum? A 2? Or sorry, not a momentum. On your action die, 2?
Oh, right. Sorry, it replaces the 2. It doesn't add to it.
Correct. But you got a 2 plus your 3, that's a 5. And you need to beat the 5, not meet the 5, right? Because that's the highest die of the 2d10. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So, if your momentum is actually a plus 3 right now.
Oh, fantastic.
So, you can burn your momentum, bring it to a 3, and that pulls it to a plus 6, because plus 3 your heart, plus 3 your momentum is a 6, which gives you a strong hit. With a strong hit, you're going to take them. They're actually going to agree to the conditions, and you get a plus 1 to your momentum. So you would have been at a plus 3, went down to a plus 2, gained your momentum back, and you're still at a plus 3. You lost nothing.
Ah, perfect. That's awesome. This is our first strong hit, and I feel like I'm relying on this momentum a lot more than I had anticipated before starting.
It has a lot of die mitigation, especially as you progress your character. You get more and more die mitigation options. Probably enough that at some point you'll probably beat yourself over the head for not using a die mitigation option when it was available and had been available for some time. But anyway, so we convinced them to tow us to the local thing. Now, the problem that we have with this is that, and I'm going to say that we actually get a progress on our, I would say that actually just completely gets us to where we need to go to get back to Relic. I would think so. But I also don't think we're going to be able to get experience for that in that way. I would like to know whether or not we run into anything else. Actually, you know what? Let's not do that. You know what? I'm bouncing back on that. Because we still technically have to do the distance. We're just doing the distance with another ship and following us around. So I think it just changes the situation up a little bit is all. So we still have to traverse the distance. I'm sorry I'm bouncing around on that, but I was trying to figure out the best way to do that. I've actually never been towed by another ship where my expedition thing was in question. So I think we continue to undertake a expedition, but at this point we're just being towed, like you said, or pulled or something. So I think really because we're not the ones in control, we're really just going to be staying vigilant for people that we see because of our quest to shield that guy. So we're going to go ahead and I think we should probably roll plus wits, which I'll do as a pilot. So if we can do a plus 10 or a 2d10 and a d6.
A 9 and a 6, and you got the 3.
All right. So no progress on our distance, but we do have to pay the price here. So let's roll a d100. See what happens.
29.
Your action causes collateral damage or has an unintended effect. Okay.
Now, does the unintended effect have to be explained now, or can that just be something that we note down later?
So, yeah, that's a fair point. I think the question is how it triggers. So, and I would be interested to hear your thoughts. I've already got mine thought ready to be implemented, but how would you see that playing out for the delayed?
I think that wherever this ancient person goes, it was a healthy settlement. I think maybe there's a small sign of a new sickness, a different plague is just starting to creep out. And I think that's our fault. But, I mean, obviously, if you want to go something less dark, I'm totally open to that.
No, I've got it. So how do we trigger that? When does that get triggered? I again, have my thoughts, but what are your thoughts on that?
I don't have one for that.
All right. So that one's a tough one. Now, I know that you had said that you have the second edition of the Mythic Game Master emulator on hand.
I do.
Yep. And in that, it does talk about keeping track of a lot of different things, and it really has some really awesome systems for it. And I don't know whether or not Ironsworn borrowed from that, but it does something very similar. So what I have in front of me is a D100 list that's blank. It's the same list that I put on the new pilot hit and run, and I put it on one of the slots. It's actually occupying 11 through 20. But our new pilot hit and run result that I put on here is no. I think it's probably null and void because we kind of already addressed it.
Yeah.
So, but basically, what's going to happen is we're going to fill this D100 list up. And either this thing on this list, you can look at this list as you play the game for inspiration, because sometimes it'll just pop out. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That actually would be the thing that I'm running into right now, right? Or you can just let the list build till it fills up, and then make rolls and use it or use it for inspiration. Right now it's inspiration only because it's only occupying one space out of this D100 table that I'm filling out. And there's still like 9 other spaces to fill. So it's inspiration only for us to remind ourselves, does this seem like this is happening now? Obviously,
right, and that would also determine what settlement that maybe he went to. Because if we go to one and we roll on that table and that's not happening there, then he went somewhere else.
Correct. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I wrote that down, and that's just for our own memory and for a roll should we think that we need to go that route. That is that, but we didn't mark progress. So we're going to need to roll again. So we both have the same wits. I don't think it really matters who goes on this one, but because I am the pilot, we'll say I go. I'll have you roll, if you would mind, 2d10 for me, and then a d6. Well, that's better.
That's looking better.
Yeah, at least it is a weak hit. So we do make progress, but we run into something at the waypoint. So I think this is going to be just an oracle that we're going to roll.
I think I already have an idea, but I want to see what the oracle provides, and just as a comparison.
If you wouldn't mind, roll a d100 for me. I'm doing this on page 36, by the way.
11.
Okay. You wouldn't believe what I rolled.
What?
Contagion or illness threatens to take hold.
Wow. That is amazing for the story.
Yeah, really. Well, and I will tell you that we are pattern finders, and I think that's really important to remember. Like, it is crazy, like how instinctual that is built into our DNA there. But it does feel, and I have to remind myself of that, because it does feel when I do these solo sessions or co-op sessions that things just seem to like fit in place so remarkably well. It's just almost creepy. But so contagion or illness threatens to take hold.
Now, does that refer to us, or does that maybe refer to the people on the mining ship, or does that mean that the relic
really
is going down?
Really excellent question, because it could be that we ran into a spaceship on the way there, and we're getting information about that. Like, you need to turn around. Like, I get that you're crippled, but don't go here. Everyone's dying, right? Or it could be that these people can't get us any farther because they're having problems, and now they need us to tell them. It could be one of us is having this issue, and we didn't get in contact, remember, with this other ship. I mean, it's not like we exchanged air, right? So we wouldn't have got it from the other ship. It would have come with us from the planet. So those are like 3 scenarios I can think of, and there's plenty that I can't or haven't. So I think that we probably should roll an oracle and see where that leads us. But if you have a different idea on that, I am more than happy to hear that out and see where you go with it.
No, I like all those scenarios, or even picking a new one. I am very nervous that it's one of us, but let's see what happens.
Well, let's go, I think, with the theme of it. Let's go with a D100, and let's see where that takes us. What we can do to determine the focus of the, and again, the Mythic Game Master Emulator talks about some of this stuff, but to determine like what the focus is of this narrative piece, whether it's us, it's the people towing, another individual coming into the scene, or it is an unknown, we can roll a die that we can split into quarters, so like a D8 or a D4. D4. We would roll a D4, and then we can attribute those to one of those values. The other option is that you can think of something about a contagion or illness, and something about survival, blighted, organism, toxic, and persevering. But I still don't know how to relate that to any of those right now.
No, it's not really lending itself to a specific area or person.
Right. So, though I did just have something hit me, but I'd rather not roll with that. I'd rather do a D4 on it. So if you're okay with it, let's roll a D4. And what we'll do is we'll say us is 1, towing us is 2, a ship coming in is 3, and other, which we'll have to roll some more on for fun for that, is going to be a 4. So you roll a d4 for us.
All
Let's see what
right, here we
happens.
go. Oh no, it's us.
Why? So
Okay.
we discover that we're infected. So let's go back to our expedition. I don't necessarily think it means anything right now, like as far as our statistics on our character, necessarily, but I think we probably
Okay.
might want to write down that we are blighted with the plague from Relic. Okay, so let me write
Yeah,
these down.
coughing in the confines of a spaceship is probably not great.
So we caught what we were kind of fleeing to try and get a new life somewhere.
Sounds like we're gonna have to pursue this guy on our own to figure out what the cure is.
Yeah, like we literally shielded him just to go out to find him again to take care of ourselves, and but before that we still have a problem. Like we need to discover what this plague means. We need to discover we need to get our ship fixed before we do that. Like I would want to go. We're limping.
Yep, for sure.
Being towed to Relic, shielding old man, and we have plague. That's something I never thought I'd write down. Okay, so I've got that. I think that's a great cliffhanger to leave off on. I mean, I don't necessarily like leaving off cliffhangers, but I am thinking about time constraints too. But there's more to talk about. So, what I want to do is we've covered quite a bit, and we haven't really talked about what cooperative role playing looks like, how that works within this system or other systems. There's just a lot of things. I mean, we've had some questions that have come up just over the natural course of things, which is, what I wanted, or maybe what we wanted. But what I'd like to do is just open it up to you as you've kind of gone through this, and there's maybe, if there's been any questions that have popped in your heads, maybe some things we haven't encountered yet that you had some questions about, or maybe some things that maybe confused you as to how we went about things, or things that maybe just aren't quite lined out, even just with the rules for Starforged itself that we're using for the session. And so I'm actually opening this up for you at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to flow so easily. Like I wasn't expecting that. And so, I was expecting a little bit more difficulty or a little bit more of headbutting, but it really seems to be, you know, I guess because we're both seeing the patterns here emerge, like neither of us are having suggestions that are so far out there that it's, you're like, no, that's not what's happening here, kind of thing. It's all very similar, little nuances here and there, but
Right.
so yeah, no, I mean, the only questions I had were like, using each other's momentum or something, and we did address that. So
Yeah.
I can't think of anything at the moment.
Yeah. So I think that the only thing that, there's different ways to handle the specifically the conjectural piece in co-op, because you can have, I have to be careful that I don't want to lead that, and or even suggestively lead it. I want to be careful about that too. And it's important to me that the other person feels like they're getting something out of the experience. But I'm not everybody, and maybe my way is not even the a better way. It's just a way. And so there may be other people who want to handle that differently. One of the things I like to do with my son is I like to try and pass the conjecture back and forth. But often what I'll do is what I do here is I will tend to give conjecture to the person making the roll. I tend to. But sometimes you'll get to a situation where that person's making a lot of rolls. So, it's just like give and take. And I think you kind of depend on the person that you're playing with as far as how malleable they are or how resistant. One person's good, hey, this sounds like a really good idea. And then another person's thinking, like you had said, whoa, that's way out there. But it's not way out there for them. So I think it can depend. I think we kind of got lucky, or at least I feel I got lucky with you, that you're so easy to an easy role playing partner to role play with. So I'm really thankful I was actually talking to my family about just a little bit about that I felt like I kind of lucked into finding a good match. At least that's how it felt off the initial call and our initial rule session. So I'm glad that you're finding it so smooth. That makes me feel good. And I know that it makes you feel good too. So it does, but it doesn't sound like you had. And I'm sorry for the rambling. It doesn't sound like you have any other questions at all as far as the role playing and how that works. I'd say now would probably be a good time to close and just lead into our next session. We'll have something to look forward to in regards to what's going on with this plague. We still have. I know you can't see it, but we have about 4 squares for the provide screening or a screen for the old man, and to get back to Relic. So, and we will have more to add because we need to maybe add a quest to get to, find the old man like you had suggested, and then maybe a quest maybe to find out about the plague, and who knows what else. So we're definitely going to be adding some quests the next time, and yeah, I think we've got a lot to look forward to. Do you have any thoughts before we close out, or anything that you would want to say? I don't want to over talk you.
Oh no, I really appreciate the kind words, and I think these types of games are really suited to people who are kind of the mindset of like in improv, where they do yes and, right, where you want to enable both people to move forward, and that's so important. I would definitely say that, maybe when we get back to Relic, I think more of the screening is going to be like, did you see that ship? Where did they go? There's going to be more inquiries as we're doing it. And I think it would be also interesting if we could come up with a name for this plague, just so that we have some sort of proper noun reference.
Okay. All right. I've got that on the back of the paper there with all my other scribbled notes. And I've got all of our sheets this time all put together along with our cards.
Yeah, no, I would just like to thank everyone also for watching and putting up with my my newness to this game, and I really appreciate Matthew's patience with me. This is a lot of fun, and I think I may have given up on this storyline earlier on, but the fact that we're pushing through has made this so much more rich and more dynamic that I think it's worth always continuing on until you really can't. I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's really crazy, like what can happen, and I think if we do stop, sometimes it's like, well, what could have happened? You never know. Now we know for sure, and that's some crazy stuff has happened. That's crazy cool. So I appreciate you having patience with me and everything else there. But all right, so I think that at this point, as it is every time, if you have watched all the way through or not, thank you so much for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks.